Evening, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. Have you ever tried to explain to somebody how you got a black eye? I mean, out of all the injuries you can have, most of them are fairly simple to explain and straightforward. You won't get much flack for it, except the black eye. And it's amazing because you show up with an injury to your ankle or to your back, and people are going to be concerned about you, and they're going to want to know what happened. But you show up with a black eye, and it's a completely different can of worms, isn't it? They want to know who punched you. And it's funny how we associate that, isn't it? Black eye and being punched. And in reality, only 15% of the time is a black eye caused by a physical assault. Now, I've had a black eye quite a few times in my life, but one of my most memorable experiences was the last time I had one a couple of years ago. And the reason why is because it was one of those 15% of the times. I got that black eye as the direct result of a nasty, vicious physical assault by my then 2-year-old daughter. Oh, she didn't know any better. I mean, we were just sharing a nice night at home, and we were spending some father-daughter time watching a movie, and I noticed halfway through the movie, she's sad, she's crying, she's upset. And I look at her and I go, "Brianna, are you okay?" Because I didn't know what happened. She looked at me in her loving, most tender voice. She frowned, turned and said, "No!" And I didn't know what happened, but somehow I got the feeling that I was to blame for this. But like a loving dad, I didn't want to see my daughter upset. I wanted to comfort and console her. And then I started to think that this was going to be one of those moments, one of those defining moments that's forever frozen in time. A moment where the bond between a father and daughter grows really stronger by the power of love. And I imagine reaching out and consoling my daughter, and she's resting her head on my chest knowing that Daddy's going to make everything okay. And the minute I reached out to comfort her, she went from 0 to Tasmanian devil like that. She started swinging her arms violently. And at that very moment, we made a powerful connection. But it wasn't quite the connection I had in mind. See, instead of our hearts connecting, I made a connection with the most tiniest, most beautiful, delicate elbow. Not once, but twice for good measure. Right smack dab in the middle of my eye. But she didn't know any better, and by the end of the night, I know she had forgotten about it. We went to bed, and I knew in the morning I'd laugh it off. And I got up the next morning, typical work day, I get dressed, I go out to work, and we had a little bit of downtime. And during this time, I was checking our schedule for the day. And you ever get that feeling when you know somebody's watching you? And I got that feeling because out of the corner of my eye, I could see this figure moving slowly toward me. And I look over, and it's my coworker, Andy. And Andy's looking at me like that, really oddly. I look at him, and I said, "Well, what are you looking at me like that for?" He goes, "I just want to know who you were fighting with." I go, "Fighting with? It didn't register to me at the time." I go, "What are you talking about, fighting with?" He said, "Well, who gave you the shiner?" And at that moment, I ran over to the wall where we had a mirror, and I looked up at that mirror, and I noticed something I hadn't seen there that morning. See, between the time that I got up and got to work, I somehow managed to develop a nice, big, fat, black, dark shiner right under my eye. And it was obvious. You couldn't miss it because it looked like a car tire had spun out under my eye. And I'm freaking out, and Andy's over there howling, thinking it's the funniest thing he's ever seen. But I work around a lot of people, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So I run into the men's bathroom, shut the door, and I'm pacing back and forth, thinking, how am I going to explain this? What do I say? My 2-year-old daughter elbowed me twice in the eye. Who's going to believe it? I know what I'll do, though. I'll make up a story. So I'm going through all the stories. But what are you going to make up about a black eye? Am I going to say I walked into the wall at home and I didn't see it, it's only attached to the house? Am I going to say that I must have missed that step and went down the flight of stairs mysteriously? And somehow I didn't think I could pass off a doorknob hitting me in the eye. And I had a very unique situation that everybody at work knew about. And that situation was that I lived at home with 2 females, my wife and my 2-year-old daughter. And I started to imagine those conversations going on around the whole workplace. Have you seen Kevin's black eye? Yeah. And do you believe he has the nerve to blame that on a 2-year-old daughter? We know who wears the pants in that household. And it was embarrassing. It was kind of humiliating because for the next 2 weeks, my eye managed to turn every shade of every color under the rainbow. But I got through it. I got through it okay. I got through it unharmed. It was actually kind of interesting because we all have those moments in our lives where they're defining moments. They're our shining moments. And I've had a lot of those. I've had experiences. I've gotten to travel. I've achieved some things that I'm really proud of. But ironically, my most memorable shining moment came on the day that my 2-year-old daughter gave me a shiner.